What is going on, gunfighters? Welcome to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about gunfighting the right way with Judeo-Christian values and real-world first-hand experience. It's an abbreviated mobile podcast episode, so I will do an abbreviated bio. First, I am a Christian. I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I am a servant of God Almighty. That is number one in my life, and everything that I do, I don't apologize for it. That's number one in my life, and I hope that it stays that way forever. Next, I've been blessed to be a combat veteran. I served in two branches of the armed forces. I was also a private contractor. I was also the commander of a tactical team to stop active shooters in a large metropolitan area. I have been a law enforcement officer. I served with LAPD, worked regular assignments, more specialized assignments. I've hunted ever since I was a young boy, been a professional big game hunter and guide, state rifle and pistol champion a few times over, and quite a few other things, but that is a very brief synopsis. And again, most importantly, a servant of God and a follower of Jesus Christ. With that, what are we going to talk about today? Pretty cool subject, and I'm surprised I haven't talked about it already. I may have briefly mentioned them in passing, but adapters. There are adapters to change caliber. The most common ones are for shotgun, but also less discussed are adapters for revolvers. So that's what we're going to talk about today, adapters. Gun adapters, there are a couple of different brands that make them, and I have no loyalty to any one brand in this. I have not used them enough, to be honest with you, to say that this brand is better than this brand. But gun adapters, they are a thing. Let's start out with the shotgun, because they're by far the most common. You take your shotgun, let's say it's let's start with what they will and won't work in. So, let's say that you have a break-open single-shot, Boss break-open single-shot shotgun, your traditional, like H&R shotgun, or any other single-shot shotgun, or a break-open double gun, a side-by-side and over and under. These adapters will work just fine. Basically, you're making a metal container that is smaller on the inside diameter to the caliber you want to shoot. So if you can picture a 12 gauge in your head, that's a pretty substantial size, right? It's like 76 caliber, 70 something caliber. I probably should have known that before I looked it up, but it's 70 something caliber. It's a big hole. You take that and you drop in a piece of machined metal in there with the inside diameter and some rifling cut in to, let's say, the size of a .38 special. And ta-da! Now you've allowed or given your shotgun the ability to shoot .38 special. That's pretty cool, right? A real common one for this would be .22. Why would you want to do that when you can already hunt small game with your shotgun? Well, one of the downfalls of the shotgun is that the ammo is heavy. If you are doing something like out in the backcountry and you're carrying a shotgun, which is a great thing to have in the backcountry, but you're also running a trap line, and every once in a while you come across an animal that's not dead and you need to dispatch it quickly, and you're carrying a bunch of ammo, do you really need to shoot that thing with a 12 gauge? In fact, you probably don't want to, but putting an adapter in and taking it out with a 22 would be great. The ones that I'm aware of do have rifling, but it's a very, very small ordeal. Some are longer than others. However, I don't know how accurate they would be, and they're really not sighted in. But for something like that, like putting basically a contact shot where you put the barrel on the base of the animal skull that you're trying to take out, that you've trapped or whatever, it would work fine. And you could carry a lot more ammo, a lot more efficiently than you could shotgun ammo. So for something like that, one of those adapters would be great. What about and that's kind of the reason these are big in the prepper community. What about, the ultimate peanut butter and chocolate hitting the fan scenario, right? What about when it's so bad you're, rummaging around and you want to shoot whatever ammo you can find? Well, for a lot of common low pressure rounds, you could have that. You could have a cheap, inexpensive, very robust as far as any modern firearm goes, single action, as I was, not single action, single shotgun. Let's say 12 gauge. You could drop in an adapter and shoot 20 gauge. If you came across a box of 20 gauge shells, you're good. You come across a box of 410 shells, you're good. You come across some 22, 38 special, 9mm, you get the point, right? You could have one shotgun, and these adapters don't weigh that much, certainly not as much as an entire gun in that caliber, and you could shoot all these different calibers. Okay, cool. I think that may have some merit. My issue with that is rate of fire. Even if you have a double gun, you got 2 shots. Yeah, you may get to a point where you're that bad, but if things get that bad, you can probably find a single shot shotgun. What else are they cool? What else are they good for, rather? They're just cool. How cool would it be to have one gun and just be able to shoot a bunch of different calibers out of it? That's just a cool thing to do. And these will let you do that. All kinds of different adapters, and there's a ton of different calibers and a ton of fun things you can do with them. So that's kind of the utility and the appeal of those. They do also make them for a handgun, for a revolver specifically. So they make them, I've seen them for the 45 long Colt down to the 22. A couple of really cool things for this. Again, what if you're running a trap line and you're carrying a fully loaded, let's say 45 long Colt is not the worst thing ever, for defense, and you're carrying a revolver chambered in that, and you've got it for bear defense or human defense, because people kill people out in the woods too, right? There's a lot of killing that goes on out in the woods and in parks and national lands and things like that. So you got a gun for defense, but you're running a trap line. Again, you want to dispatch very small game at close range. You drop in a 22 long rifle adapter or even a 22 short, right? And take out that animal caught in a trap. Or if you think you may get in a scenario where you want a lot more ammo, you could carry 100 rounds, just one sleeve of CCI mini mags and some adapters that don't weigh very much. And then you have a little bit more utility, a little bit more versatility in that revolver. So pretty cool there. I know they probably wouldn't, but I always have in the back of my mind, because these fit in the cylinder, right? And this thing is basically flying down the barrel, not touching the barrel. I've never messed with these because I always have in the back of my mind, what if that round hits the inside of the barrel? It may not do anything to it, but I just, although I use my guns hard, I don't think I would want to do that. It's probably not even, it's probably possible, but it's probably very unlikely. It just is always in the back of my mind. Maybe that's not a thing. Somebody that uses these a lot, let me know if that's ever happened. I'd love to hear about it, or if it has never happened and you've done it thousands of times. That'd give me a little bit more confidence. But a lot of cool utility there. Also, just for fun, remember that shooting can be fun. Let's say you have that Colt single action army, not an old antique, the one that Wyatt Earp carried that's worth $1 million, but like a modern version. Colt still makes a single action army, or at least last I checked they did. You have a Colt single action army, or you have a new Birdie replica or something, and 45 long Colt, and you just want to go out and your buddies are going out to the range just to have fun, and you want everybody to be able to experience that loading and shooting of that piece of history, but you don't want to spend $200, which would be easy to do, on factory 45 long Colt ammo. You can bring a box of that, let them shoot the full house, full power loads in it, and then you could put the 22 adapter in and say, here, have fun. You shoot at some aluminum cans and pick them up when you're done. Stuff like that. I could see a lot of just fun utility there. It's got a purpose. Not everything has to be tactical. And going back to the shotguns, I thought of another thing, a lot of utility. Let's say you have that break open single shot and a double gun, right? You have your grandfather's double gun. The only family heirloom that I have is my grandfather's old Ashley Fox, very, very old double barrel shotgun. perhaps you want pass that down to the next generation. You want a younger person to shoot that, or you want a younger person to just shoot a firearm of yours. Let's say you have a 12 gauge break open single shot, and you have that young man or young lady that you want to take out and have them shoot it, but you just know the recoil of that 12 gauge. It's a lot, I'm not going to lie, in a break open single shot, even in a 20 gauge for a young shooter, because I grew up hunting with one. They can pack quite a wallop. If you have one of these adapters, let's say you have a 12 gauge break open single shot, you could drop in a 410 adapter and have them shoot that, and it's not going to beat them up. It's even going to recoil less than a break open single shot 410 because it's going to weigh more and it's going to be shooting the 410. So that's a pretty cool, really good use for these. You just want to drop in an adapter and have them shoot without getting beat up, and that's the gun that you have. You're not a gun collector. You don't have an H&R handy rifle and shotgun in every single caliber, or you're not just going to go buy a brand new gun for that kid knowing he's going to outgrow that and be just fine with a bigger gauge in a year or two, because they grow like weeds at certain stages, and you just think, I don't want to go out and buy this gun for something they're going to use for one season. Let me just buy an adapter and have them go out in the backyard and hunt squirrels and rabbits with this adapter, and then I'll have the adapter if I ever need it. It's a pretty good and really useful thing for these adapters. And going back to the kind of apocalypse thing, because I looked this up because I knew it was a thing, and there's like these kits called like the scavenger and the zombie apocalypse kit and all that stuff, and I love preparedness and thinking about those kind of scenarios. It's a great mental gymnastics. It's a great thing to think about and be prepared for. If you've listened, you know that I'm not joking when I talk about preparedness and being prepared and being ready. Although I don't see the utility of this in that scenario. So it's the end of the world and you're scavenging all kinds of ammo, and yeah, you've got this one break open single shot, or let's say best case scenario, you have a double gun and you've scavenged some 9mm and 40 Smith & Wesson, and you've got an adapter in there. That might work okay until you run into 3 guys with semi-autos and you've got 1 shot or maybe 2 shots of a very inaccurate round coming out of a shotgun. I don't see the utility there. Maybe you have a go-to firearm, and this would be like, because at this point the NFA wouldn't exist, right? And you could saw it off and have a really, really short gun with a couple of adapters in your pack that if you came across some ammo, you could maybe have this, or you're going to have it like strapped to your leg and have your main gun, and then if you have to, or there's only one of them, you're going to break out the single shot and take care of it. I'm trying to really honestly see the utility in this. Maybe. I don't know. I was initially thinking that, like, if ammo got really hard to find, you could still use one of these in practice, but I don't think that's feasible because from what I understand, they're not accurate. They're just, so you're not going to get any kind of practice as far as your fundamentals, stance, sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control. I don't see any utility over dry firing. You can do all that dry fire and waste no ammo. So I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, maybe if you want one with some gun adapters, I think there's a lot of utility, but I definitely wouldn't pick a double gun or a single barrel shotgun. As much as I love shotguns, right? I wouldn't pick that as my end of the world weapon. If I was going to pick a shotgun, I'd get something with a reasonable rate of fire. And as far as I know, and I could be wrong, there's none of these adapters that work in those, right? You have to be able to break it open and slide these in and slide them out to unload them and reload them. So again, as cool as that sounds, like the scavenger kit or something like that, I don't really see that as a valid use, but there are a lot of really cool uses for these, and I think I've mentioned several that I could just think of off the top of my head and thinking of this episode. You may be able to think of even more, but a lot of utility. You want a young kid to shoot a shotgun that you have in a lighter caliber. You just want to go out and shoot 22 out of a 45 long Colt without wasting a ton of money, just to have fun with it. You are carrying a revolver or you are carrying a shotgun and you're running a trap line and you dispatch an animal caught in a trap. Something like that could have a lot of utility. So there is some utility. I just don't think it's the ultimate survival weapon. If you do, that's great. More power to you. Rock on. Have one of these with a bunch of adapters in your pack and hopefully it works out for you. Anyway, that's some thoughts on the adapters. Now, the tactical tip of the day is going to be on shotguns, but not about these adapters per se. It's going to be on chokes. One of the great things about a shotgun, the ammo is super versatile. I can hunt anything from a mourning dove to a grizzly bear and be successful with it. And the choke also makes it versatile, right? The choke, if you don't know, is basically a funnel at the end of the barrel. Cylinder bore or no choke, just it remains the same diameter all the way down, but usually you'll have some kind of constriction. Improved cylinder, modified full, and there's a bunch of them in between there and on either end of that. There's even spreader chokes to make shots spread out faster. Anyway, there's a lot of different chokes. A shotgun is my one go-to gun if I could only have one long gun, for whatever scenario, and I don't have any other caveats, because it's not the best tool for every job, but I think it is the most versatile tool. Some of the versatility is in the chokes. Now, I have a whole system that I've made a video on, but I'm waiting to edit it. The patrons already have it, but it's kind of like the ultimate line 1 gear, line 2 gear for your go-to survival shotgun. But anyway, I have a system for this, but a simple way, if you run a side saddle and you want to have this, if you're going on an extended excursion out in the wilderness, which I like to do, and you want to be able to put food on the table and you don't know exactly what you might be doing, you can have a spare choke in a little tube. A lot of times they come in a little tube, and you can put that in your side saddle. Now, it's going to give you one less round, but let's say I think for me, improved cylinder is the most versatile choke. Some people might disagree and say modified, and that's fine. But for me, I like improved cylinder. But let's say I want to take a full choke, because there are certain situations where a full choke is better. Extended waterfowl, turkey, whatever. I want that full choke. Well, I can just carry that. It minuses one round, but I can put that tube in the side saddle, and I can have it in there. I like the extended choke tubes, not because they're partially because they're extended, not because I think it really makes that big a difference in the pattern, but because it extends, so I can just unscrew it, right? I don't need to reach in there with some kind of special choke tube wrench. I can usually get it hand tight enough that I'm confident it's not going to unscrew, and I can just interchange them. I can just grab it and turn it. So I could throw in the full choke if I wanted to, put the other one in that tube, and then I have a lot more versatility going from like an improved cylinder to a full choke. So that's your tactical tip of the day. If you're going on some kind of extended excursion and you want that extra choke on the gun, just throw it in the side saddle in one of those tubes. Anyway, that's your tactical tip of the day. The tactical verse of the day. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Let your gentleness be made known to all men. The Lord is at hand. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, with prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.